Now, it's not, I wouldn't suggest to you for a second that no work has been done in these areas. You'll know that. This is just some things we see as sound principles around service transformation. And this isn't a CLG view of how things should be done. These principles have been derived from real work in real authorities and real partnerships. And it seems that the most successful service transformation activity incorporates elements of these four principles. And again, we've got time to go through these in detail, but just very quickly. A lot of them seem self-evident when they're put up like this. Understanding the needs of customers, what works well for them, and what they find unsatisfactory. i.e. measuring the customer experience of taking a service, and then when you've made improvements, hopefully going back and measuring that so you can demonstrate some improvements. Techniques for that, I would imagine a sea of hands if I asked for them around things like customer journey mapping, but actually engaging with real people who take these services. Again, if I go back to my time in an authority, we seem to spend a lot of time in darkened rooms around tables thrashing out what our customers wanted, but we never asked them. We never got them involved. And the evidence seems to suggest that you have to take into account the real experiences of real people and involve them in the improvement. Secondly, understand the perspective of the people who actually deliver the service and not simply the managers of the people who deliver the service. I'm sure, again, if any of you work in, I realise some of you will be self-employed or run your own companies, whatever it happens to be, but for those of you that do still work in a line management type environment, you will know there is a great difference between what you do on a day-to-day basis and what any line manager believes you do on a day-to-day basis. I used to run management training at one time, and management development training. I used to start that by running a 2-hour session on what was wrong with management. Wow! Keep us in the dark, don't talk to us, don't understand, can't relate strategy to what we actually do, and all of this for 2 hours. And then I would say to them, well, actually, you're all managers too, aren't you? So what do your staff think about you in that context? And we have to involve the perspective of the people who do the job for real, because they're the only people who truly understand the difficulties that they go through. Whereas often, service transformation tends to be done with managers, and often quite senior managers. We do believe that to be effective, it has to deal with the people that deliver the service. Some understanding of measurement and how effective things can be. Again, techniques like activity-based costing might be used there to try and come up with some sort of broad definition of the amount of activity that's spent on value-added activities, delivering the service, and how much is spent on sustaining or non-value-added activities in terms of all of the back office or some of the nonsense that goes on. And if we can create a shift so that a higher proportion of spend is on the value-added activities, and we can make some savings there too in terms of not shifting all of the saved expenditure, then we ought to improve services by spending more money on value-added activities, and we ought to save some money by cutting out the things we don't really need to do. And finally, failures and the whole management of failure, the reduction of service failure. But what I'm not talking about here are necessarily lean methodologies. I think these are underlying principles that support many, many methodologies. But trying to minimise failure, trying to make sure that more things are done right first time. Again, if I was speaking to a local authority audience at this time, I would ask for a hand count of everyone that understood their corporate complaints procedure. Woof! All the hands go up. And I'd say, do you understand how quickly you have to respond to complaints and how you do it? Yeah, absolutely. And then I ask them, do they think there's as much effort put into making sure that the complaints don't happen in the first place as handling them well? And that brings in elements of failure management. Clearly, it is much, much better to be doing things right first time than efficiently handling the consequences of not getting it right first time. And talking to a group of liars, oh, I love that term now, I know that you will understand that. But those four underlying principles seem to be there for all of the effective work that's gone on to date. But I'm not talking about methodology here. If Sprint floats your boat or your local authority's boat and they like that and it's a badge they sign up behind, fine. If lean thinking does the same, fine. We really are not investing here or trying to promote one methodology over another, but it seems the best methodologies and most effective ones incorporate all of these generic elements within them. And again, very quickly, and none of this will be a surprise to you, some of the things that we're seeing in effective, successful transformation, these elements seem to be in place. And I suppose flow as a consequence. Good staff engagement, robust project governance so they don't get excited about it and try and increase the scope before they've delivered everything. Not that that would ever happen. Appropriate resources so people aren't trying to do all of this on top of their day job within an organisation. But most importantly, a clear vision and strong senior leadership. And that picture I painted at the outset of the complexities of services and multi-agency delivery, what customers care about, need to be reflected here. Gone are the days in a local authority where the agenda was driven purely by locally elected politicians, and that's what they had to do. There are now really three sets of drivers. That one still exists, but there's the large environmental driver of CSR 07 and the efficiency savings that has to be overlaid there. And because of multi-agency service delivery, there are some drivers based on local area agreements and local strategic partnerships that also have to be incorporated. And again, what most successful partnerships and most successful organisations do is to understand that, bring all of those drivers together in terms of strategy and a delivery plan, and then, most importantly, the final bit, tell people about it. And actually make sure that's communicated throughout the partner organisations so that the activity that goes on at the local level does support the strategic approach based on the drivers. Again, you and I both know we'll tend to refer to that as a golden thread going from strategy through to service transformation and delivery. But we always see our greatest successes are where that happens, and particularly the strong senior leadership, because there can be a great resistance to change at management level within some organisations. You need the strong leadership to overcome that.